Hi guys, today we're going to be looking at Unit 3. I just want to remind you that you always have these pink study guides in front of you that will be helpful to guiding you through some of these notes or some of the practice that you're doing. Also remember that you can use these for your WPRs. These are not made just to be thrown away or to be never looked at again. They're actually very helpful if you take a few minutes to read through them. On the left, you'll see notes or important information. And on the right, you'll see examples. So if the notes and important information is not making sense, take a look at the examples on the right-hand side. And again, you can use these study guides to help you through the video notes that we're about to do. Alright, so we're taking a look at Unit 3 Day 8 review. At the top of your paper it should say Boot Camp Quarter 2 Recovery, because that's the reason you're doing this, to get back some of those points that you lost or did not initially earn in Quarter 2 in order to help get yourself up to passing. So this first one says, if y equals 44 when x equals 4, determine the value of y when x equals 1. So this is a proportions question. And we always put y on top of x. Kind of like when we think about slope, we always do change y over change x. So as long as we continually do y over x, this unit should not be too bad as far as average rate of change goes, determining the equation of a direct variation, or a problem like this. So y on top, 44, over x on the bottom, 4. Then it says determine the value of y. So we don't know what y is for the next fraction. So y over the x value of 1. Then in order to solve a proportion or fraction equals fraction, remember that we just simply cross multiply. 44 times 1 is 44, and 4 times y is 4y. Then we just solve for y, get y by itself, and to do that we divide by 4, divide by 4. So final answer, y equals 44 divided by 4 is 11. Okay. Number 4 says find the average rate of change on the graph of f of x equals 3x squared minus 9 on the interval -3, 5. So there's a couple of important pieces of information here that we have to kind of highlight. Average rate of change is summed up in one word as slope. And we know that slope is change y over change x. Again, there we go with y's on top, y's to the sky. On the graph of f of x equals 3x squared minus 9, on the interval -3, 5. Now both of these are representing x values. So what we need to do is find our y values in order to find the slope. So first we're going to plug in. So we have f of -3 equals, remember we did this in the last unit, Unit 2, so we're just plugging in -3 for x. 3 parentheses -3 parentheses squared minus 9. Go ahead and type that right into your calculator. We end up with 18. So that means we just created the coordinate point -3, 18. And we're going to hold on to that for just a minute. Now we need to plug in +5. So we have f of 5 equals 3 parentheses 5 parentheses squared minus 9. And again, type that right into your calculator. So you should end up with 66. And again, we just made a coordinate point for ourselves. We plugged in 5, and we got out 66. That's coming back to that input-output that we were talking about last unit, Unit 2. So now we have two coordinate points, and so our last step is to find change y over change x, meaning the slope. So if you need to, it might be helpful to label these coordinates as x, y, and x, y, so that we don't get our x's and y's mixed up. So change means to subtract. That's that triangle. I keep saying the word change. Change, triangle, subtract. So take your first y value and subtract your second y value, 18 minus 66, over, take your first x value and subtract your second x value. Now we actually have to do a little bit of math here. 18 minus 66, type that in, and we get negative 48, over negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. Then we just have to reduce as much as possible. Negative divided by negative we know turns positive. 48 divided by 8 is 6 over 1. Now if you choose to just write this at 6 or as 6, that's fine too. I typically like to keep it as a fraction because slope is kind of rise over run like we used to talk about a long time ago back in probably 7th grade. So again, a couple important things to remember here. Average rate of change means to calculate slope. That's a really fancy phrase for the word slope. Take your x values, plug them in to get y values. Once you have those y values, create points. Then, once you have those points, find the slope. And reduce as much as possible. Go ahead and flip it to the next page when you have it. Number 7 says, given the function f of x equals 3x, or negative 3x plus 1, and 2x minus 6 with all this crazy x stuff on the right-hand side, answer the following. Graph the function. So, I see here 2 equations, which means that I'm making 2 tables. So I'm going to make the first table x, negative 3x plus 1. And it says that the first function, you can see here, is defined on negative 2 less than or equal to x less than 1. So I start at negative 2 and I go all the way up to 1. Negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1. Then I'm going to just set up for my next table. I have x, and then my next equation is 2x minus 6. This one starts at 1 and goes up to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we have to plug these into our calculator. You can go to graph from the main menu. Then hit delete, delete, delete if there's anything in there. Hit tab and type in your function, negative 3x plus 1. Hit enter, and then Control T will give you the table. Remember that you want to scroll up to where you see negative 2 and give us some values there. So I'm going to fill in my table as you're using your calculator to fill in yours. So we should have 7, 4, 1, negative 2, reading straight down in that second column. Now I have to go back and look at my original definition as far as the x's go. For this first one, it says that we have less than or equal to and then a less than symbol. Here we're going to come back to those open and closed circles that we did way back in Unit 1. So if it has a bar underneath at negative 2 for the x's, that means that we start with a closed circle. Then we go all the way to 1, and 1 had the less than symbol, so that means strictly open. Now we're going to take a minute to graph this. I'm going to graph mine in purple. We just start by plotting each of those points. Negative 2, positive 7. And remember, that's a nice big closed circle. Any point that you plot in between your circles are also closed. You just don't have to make them nice and defined and big. So then I have negative 1, positive 4, 0, 1. And then the last one, make sure that you make it open. Over 1, down 2, open. And then connect them. Then we're going to go back to our calculator, delete everything that's in there. And this time, instead of hitting tab and typing in negative 3x plus 1, we are going to be typing in 2x minus 6. Hit enter, then Control T to bring up your table. Remember that your table this time should start at positive 1 and go up to 5, so scroll down so that you see positive 1 and start filling in your values. So reading straight down, again, I have -4, -2, 0, 2, and 4. If you're trying to choose not to use the calculator right now to do this independently and on your own, I'm going to tell you that you are not going to be successful when you take your test. I will not be there to walk you through how to use the calculator, so please make sure if you need to stop and rewind this video right now so that you can learn how to type this stuff in the calculator, please do so. Ask whatever math teachers around you so that you can learn how to type this stuff in the calculator. Because again, you have to take an assessment after this, and you have to be able to type these in on your own. Don't wait on me. It's not going to be helpful because I'm not going to be there for you, unfortunately, when you are doing your assessment. Now the next step again is to look back at our original problem. I see both less than or equal to symbols at +1 and +5 for x's. Less than or equal to means close circles on both. And then we're plotting those points. +1, -4. Big close circle. +2, -2. Little close circle. +3, 0. A little close circle. +4, +2. And +5, +4. Big close circle. And then connect. Alright, that's it for number 7A. Number 8 says that Jacob pays $70 per month for his phone bill. After 4 months, he's paid $320 total. Write an equation to model the amount paid as a function of time. So I see this $70 per month. That means that that's the slope, or our m. So m in this case equals 70 because it's every single month. When I see this per, or I see the word every or each, that means that it's slope. It's going up $70 every single month. Then the next one I boxed in was 4 months paid $320. So this is actually a coordinate, a point on the line, 4, 320, where 4 is representing time, 320 is representing money, or in other words, x and y. So here, if I have a point and I have a slope, we plug into something called the point-slope formula. It's really long and you have to memorize it. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, where m is slope and x1, y1 are the coordinates, or is the coordinate that we're going to pass through. So now we have y minus y1, we just labeled as 320, equals m, meaning 70, parentheses, x minus the x1 value, 4. Now, you can actually leave this equation just like this. If there were a double negative, you'd want to change it, but in this case, we can leave it. We're done. And then it says, determine how much he pays for a year of phone service. Notice that the time has been in months, and so we actually have to transfer or convert 1 year. And we know that 1 year is equal to some number of months. Think about a year, how many months are in a year. So now we know that 1 year is 12 months. We want to figure out how much he's paying after 12 months. Remember, months is a function of time. Time is x. So I'm going to now take this equation that we wrote, y minus 320 equals blah, 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 and plug in 12 for the x value. So we have y minus 320 equals 70, parentheses. Instead of x, we're replacing it with 12, minus 4, parentheses. Now we cannot leave this one the way it is. We actually have to do some math. So we're going to keep y minus 320 equals 70 times, inside the parentheses, 12 take away 4 is 8. Okay, keep going with your math. Y minus 320 equals 70 times 8. 70 times 8 is 560. Then add 320 to both sides. So y equals 880. After 1 year of service, or 12 months, Jacob's paying $8, or not $8, man, wouldn't that be nice? $880 for his phone bill. Go ahead and flip the page once you have it. All right, number 11 is looking at direct variation between x and y as far as graphs go. We haven't really talked about direct variation, but there's a couple key important pieces that we have to talk about before we can figure out if a graph is direct variation or not. So in order to be a direct variation, it has to be linear, meaning a line. No curves whatsoever. Then the second thing is that it has to pass through 0, 0. Or the origin. So we're going to take a look at these. We're going to circle the ones that are direct variation. We'll even write a reason as to why, and then we're also going to write reasons as to why things are not direct variation. So if you take a look at this first one, number 1, it looks like we have a straight line, so that's good. It's linear. That's point number 1. And then you see that it's passing through the origin, 0, 0. So we're going to circle this, and we're going to write why. We're going to say that it's linear, and it goes through 0, 0. Then we're going to take a look at number 2. Number 2 is curvy. It's a parabola. So if you're thinking about your 2 checkpoints, the first one says linear, it's a line. If we look at this first one, it's not a line. So we're going to say not linear. That's why we're not circling number 2. Try number 3. Remember, go through your checklist. Is it linear? If so, does it pass through the origin? If it's not linear, say not linear, which you should be for this one. It's not a line. Go ahead and try the next 3, and I'll put my answers up here once I'm done, or once you're done. I don't know which. Pause it if you need to, if you need more time. Alright, so you can see for number 4, I circled it because it is linear, it's a line, and it passes through 0, 0 right there at the origin. Number 5, I did not circle it because you can see it's a little hard to see, but you can see that it passes through the point 0, 1, not at the origin. And then number 6, I circled it because it is linear and passes through 0, 0. I want you to take a look at number 12. I'm going to do this problem independently and quietly, silently, while you work on it on your own. If you need to look back, this was just like number 1. Look back at your notes if you need to. Use your study guide. Utilize your resources while you have them now. So for number 12, I have y equals 345. If you need to, you can pause the video, rewind it if you need to go back. Otherwise, we're going to move forward. Number 14 is another word problem. It says that Kelsey spends $35 each week on gas. I'm going to box in that 35 because it is important to me. She uses money from a special account for gas, which starts at $5,000. She does not put any money into this account until it's completely gone. So notice here that she's spending money. If you think about spending money and it's coming out of an account, you need to think, does your account go up in value in money, or does it go down if you are spending from an account? Hopefully you're thinking in your head that it's going down. So spends means down, decreasing. Now it says $35 each week. Here's our key word. Each, every, per. Those three words mean that it's slope. M equals negative 35. Then it says that it starts at 5,000. Start is a key word that indicates that the y-intercept is 5,000. Notice the difference between this problem and the last word problem that we did. We were still given a slope, but then when we kept reading, we were only given one additional value. In the last one, we were given two values, where we had 4 months and whatever it was, $270. We were given two values to make a point. In this problem, we don't have that. We just have one additional value, which means that it is the y-intercept. If we have a slope and a y-intercept, then we simply plug into y equals mx plus b. So we have y equals slope of negative 35, attach an x, and then plus 5,000. That's it. That's your answer. You just have to be able to identify what they're giving you in the problem in order to write your answer. Then it says determine how many weeks of gas Kelsey would get before having to replenish the account, meaning the money in her account gets to $0. So if we think about $0, dollars is representing the y. So we're going to say that y is equal to 0. We're just going to plug in. 0 equals negative 35x plus 5,000. Remember, our goal here is to get x by itself. So we need to think, do we move the 35 first or do we move the 5,000 first? Think about your order of operations, what needs to get moved away. So now we have negative 5,000 equals negative 35x. And to get rid of that negative 35 in the front, hopefully you recognize that it's originally being multiplied, so now we need to divide. So final answer, approximately 142 weeks. Now you'll notice that I rounded here because here we found x equals 142.857. And we're talking about how much or how many weeks she would have in order to pay for this gas. If she goes to 143 weeks, she's already out of money. She ran out of money at 142.8 weeks. So we need to round down in this case to 142. Number 17, we're given this piecewise function again. This time we don't have a graph. It says evaluate f of negative 3, f of positive 3, and f of 5. So we're going to kind of split our paper into 3 sections so that we can do each of the 3. And first, we're going to do f of negative 3. Second, we're going to do f of 3. And third, f of 5. So when we do this, we have to read the equation carefully. Not only the equation, but where x is defined, the second part, because that's going to tell us which equation to plug into. So the first value that we're plugging in is a negative 3. Remember that this represents x. So I look at where x is defined over here in this purple box, and I say, okay, is 3 less than or equal to 3? Is negative 3 less than or equal to 3? Well, negative 3 is smaller than positive 3, so yes. That means I'm going to plug this into the first equation. Negative 1/2 times negative 3 plus 4. Type that right into your calculator. So we find f of negative 3 is 5.5. Notice that I did not plug it in for two different equations. I plugged it in for one and only one. The one in which negative 3 falls. Alright, now we're looking at positive 3. So I think to myself, if I plug in a 3 right here where x is, 3 less than or equal to positive 3. Is that true? 3 less than or equal to positive 3. Yes. So that means we're plugging in again to the first equation. Negative 1/2 times positive 3 this time plus 4. Type it right into your calculator. You should end up with 2.5. F of 3 is equal to 2.5. Now we're looking at positive 5. So I read this first definition of x. Figure out is 5 falling in this first category. 5 less than or equal to 3. Not true. So I'm not using the first equation. Now let's just double check to see the second one. 5 greater than 3. Yes, that one's true. So now we have equals, and we're plugging into the second equation. 4 times 5 plus 1. So f of 5 is equal to 21. Remember, you can always go back, rewind, pause, do what you need to do to help yourself be successful. If you need more clarification, it's always helpful to review and rewind. Also, you probably have a math teacher sitting near you somewhere to help you out with this. Flip it once you got it. Alright, so we just have a couple more questions to look at. The next two are related to average rate of change. Remember that a keyword for this is slope. And that for slope, we do change y over change x. So here we have this table, and it says that we want to find the average rate of change, or the slope, between negative 2 and 0. So instead of plugging into a function, instead of plugging into an equation, we say that negative 2, comma, something. Negative 2, if we look at the table, outputs 8. So negative 2, comma, 8 is our first point. Oh my goodness, my cat just sat on this and now I can't write anything. Negative 2, positive 8, there we go. And then 0, comma, look at your table, what is 0 output? 0, comma, 6. So now we have xy, xy, and now we're calculating. Change y over change x. Take your first y and subtract your second y over your first x minus your second x. Simplify and reduce. Check your answer with mine once you have it, and then move on to part C. Very similar, except this time we just have a negative 2 and a positive 5. The only simplifying that we can do for part C is to get rid of that double negative. So for part A, we have negative 1 over 1, or you could just say negative 1. And for part C, we have 10.5 over 7. I think that's it for this page. Yep, so we're flipping to the next one. Just a few more problems. Stick it out with me. You're almost there. Alright, it looks like I tried to circle number 26 here. It says, after 32 weeks of exercising, Oliver now weighs 150 pounds. He's been losing 1.5 pounds per week. So notice that we have this 32 weeks, 150 pounds. So we can actually write that as a point because we have an x and a y value together. 32, 150. Then it says that he's losing, remember it means negative, 1.5 pounds per week. Per, there's that other keyword, each, every, per. That means that our slope is negative 1.5. So remember, if we have a point, x1, y1, and we have a slope, then we can figure out an equation to write here. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Go ahead and plug in. I'm going to do this silently here on the video. You can check your answer as you go or at the end. So hopefully you got this far. Y minus 150 equals negative 1.5, x minus 32. But now to actually answer the question, what was Oliver's weight before he began exercising? That's asking us for the y-intercept. When he began exercising, where did he start at? What was his weight? So in order to get there, we have to actually do some distributing. Take this negative 1.5 and distribute it inside the parentheses. So we have y minus 150 equals negative 1.5 x. Then I'm typing in negative 1.5 times 32, negative 32 rather. And we should get positive 48. Bring that 150 to the other side. So then we have negative 1.5x plus 198. Remember, we're looking for his weight when he began exercising, which means the y-intercept. So initially, he was 198 pounds. Then he was losing 1.5 pounds every week for 32 weeks. I believe that's our last problem. So at this point, if you need to rewind, go back, revisit, you're welcome to do so. If you feel as though you need more practice, then check in with the teacher that's near you so that you can get some more practice on this stuff. Otherwise, you're going to be moving on to your unit test. Remember, in order to change your quarter 2 grade, you must pass your unit tests, the assessments. You are only doing particular problems related to the questions that we did here in this practice packet. Good luck with your test, and we'll move on to Unit 4 next.